Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. Today we're doing a creature profile, and as it's the last part of the shapeshifter part, we'll be talking about what's generally referred to as the Kitsune. Now, as always, we're going to do a little quote from one of my stories that they're mentioned in. Then we're going to talk about the folklore and information that I have on the creature that I've used for development in my universe, and then I'm going to give you the creature profile from my universe. Okay, so let's get into it. A Kitsune. I heard of your kind before. The most revered of all shapeshifters. You're more attached to your demonic, hence the tails, correct? I am honoured to meet you, and know for sure you'll help me find the wolf I've been sent to find. Quote from Iron Wolf in Japan. Meaning fox in Japanese, the Kitsune is the most iconic of all the shape-shifting style beings within Asian mythology and are known in Korea and China, though under different names. Unlike the shapeshifters we spoke of previously, these beings are used in the veil to represent the opposite side of shapeshifting, beings that are more popularly known from Japanese yokai, for example. These beings that are like their Tanuki brethren that we can see in the Studio Ghibli movie Poco are seemingly wild beings with the ability to trick or rather just change into human forms. Though there are various beings pulled into these categories that are commented as shapeshifters, within the veil the term Kitsune, the fox, that identifies all shapeshifter beings, are these wild is used for these wild animals to humans, rather than human into wild animals. I will speak I'll speak of the Kitsune here, as it's the most easily understandable form because particularly the Japanese Kitsune has the propensity to seek out humans, particularly rich young men, to be husbands, and are what mixes best with the European concepts of fox and shapeshifters on the whole as tricksters. Now, to begin with, Kitsune is the general term for foxes, but there are two kinds. The messengers of the god Inari, who are benevolent, the Zenko, and the field foxes that often cause mischief, the Yako. Although different areas include more, such as some that are invisible. Now, in general, yokai folklore says that all foxes are able to shapeshift into humans. In fact, the ability to shapeshift is commonly referred to as obake. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And certain animals have this ability. It is thought that the animals to have this ability include foxes, wolves, snakes, dogs, badgers, raccoons, spiders, and of course cats. But amongst them all, the Kitsune have made a more prominent impression upon Westerners, and much more extensive information and representation within popular culture. The general look of the foxes are as ordinary foxes, but they are most commonly thought to shapeshift into beautiful women, to become lovers or wives, and some take human form to be protective guardians or faithful friends. And yet they are beings that are long lived, with a new tail growing every 100 years until they reach 9, and the mighty title of Kyubi no Kitsune. At the point of having 9 tails, they are thought to be extremely wise, powerful, and are said to become either silver or gold with some fire ability. I, like many of you, think you might be thinking of a certain pocket monster there. The word has been recorded as early as 794, and like most Japanese mythology, has roots in Chinese mythology, although there's thought to be some Indian influence in these beings too. The Chinese beings tend to hold more of a malevolent streak, with a tendency to turn into a woman in need of help, taken in by a village and then disappearing in the morning, along with a good deal of food from the villagers' pantries. Some of them even being more vicious in their trickery and debating whether to snog, marry, kill, so to speak. The Japanese Kitsune do tend to lean more towards benevolent, although their penchant for turning into women, regardless of the gender of the original fox, can often mean caution for finding women alone in the woods who seem to have an allergy to other canines. Some Kitsune can duplicate the form of others, but there's said to be ways to tell a foxy lady aside from everyone else, and it is generally they're renowned for turning into very beautiful women. You can probably think of the kind of people you know, no matter where you live, and you can always say that someone you know has a foxy grin or foxy face, but it is not really meant in the positive. However, traditional ideas of beauty included narrow face, close set eyes, thin eyebrows, and high cheekbones that are often termed fox-faced or kitsune gao, and ascribed to the foxes taking human form. It is said some still retain fox-like qualities, potentially a coating of fine hair, a fox-shaped shadow or reflection, or maybe they haven't even been quite able to hide away their rather smart aleck grin. Either way, the Kitsune tends to choose the interaction with people, and certainly meeting one might be an interesting experience nonetheless. So to explain why I'm talking about the Kitsune as a separate niche to the ordinary shapeshifter, well, as mentioned before, in the Vale they represent not the human with the magic to change into an animal, but an animal, born an animal that is, with the ability to turn into a human. These beings in the Vale are where the Kitsune types remain more to a demonic heritage rather than to their human heritage. Say a woman gives birth to a shapeshifter and it's born in an animal form. That's often said to make the difference. Woe betide someone whose kid's form is that of a horse. But it is also a term used in the Western Vale to refer to someone who has chosen to be more their wild nature and meet humans less, or so they go feral. I think the best way to think about that is, born a shapeshifter, do you remain a human with special powers or an animal with more intelligence? In that case, these beings live just as the previous incarnation, but the traditional Kitsune in the Vale, true Kitsune, which are often referred to as the king of shapeshifters, literally are born as foxes, not as humans. Now, here's the species profile. Side, neutral, created by demonic pairings of humans. Created for nothing specifically. Created when early into the mixing of humans and demon kind. Physical description: foxes that, as they reach 100 years old, grow an additional tail, up to 9 tails. They turn themselves into human forms, but the most common, no matter the gender of the fox itself, into beautiful and attractive women. Abilities: the ability to shapeshift into any human form, the ability of long life, and to talk to all animals and humans no matter the form. The longer they live, and the more tails they grow, the more demonic powers they begin to develop, which they can use for good or ill, with some often trapping souls to get their tails quicker. Most known for the ability to turn into the most attractive women to seduce or even protect their homes from the ignorant. Weaknesses: a natural disquiet around dogs, especially when they're in human form, and mirrors that can show their true form because then they're at risk of being captured or killed. Kitsune pelt was once treasured by the Asian vampire nobility to prove their dominance over nature. Number: it's hard to say. The general view is that the true Kitsune with more than one tail are incredibly rare, with less than 2,000, and there's a thought that there's only about 50,000 one-tailed that live amongst the Vale, though some believe the majority live outside it. Well-known beings: Prince Tetsuo. In shapeshifter legend, he faced down a vampire noble that wished to take the island of Kyushu away from the natural spirits, and Tetsuo firstly seduced him into revealing the vampire weakness of the sun, before Tetsuo had a mirror made that would trap the first rays of light, and then had it melted down and made into a glass blade, holding the power of the sunlight, and used it to battle the vampire and slaughter them, keeping Kyushu in the Vale safe from harm and riddled with natural spirits rather than humans. Characters in story: Mori Toshiyuki in male form, Toshi in female form, Yuki from Viper Confounded. Final comments: I'm quite fond of the Kitsune, but I was never sure how to introduce them into my vast Vale universe because they fell under the category of shapeshifter, but like the other animals that could change into humans, it never felt right putting them down as just a shapeshifter. So I separated the term in the Vale to replace what I was originally thinking of calling feral. Now, it is short and not very, I suppose it's not very informative, but with the Kitsune there are a lot of videos around YouTube that talk about it, and in general a lot of it is the same thing. There's not really specific stories called up most of the time, and when there are, you can't always tell if it's come from a traditional folk tale. It tends to be like that with some yokai, so mainly because of the translations. So yeah, that's it. Next month we'll be talking about werecats. Thank you for listening. Bye.